I was born in a displaced persons camp in Regensburg, Germany, and my parents had been slave laborers that the Germans took from Ukraine during World War II. And my father ended up working for the American Army there as a driver and a mechanic, and my mom was a agricultural worker. She just basically lived with her family in this displaced persons camp. After they got married, they had me and my brother. My brother's a couple of years younger than I, and everybody from those camps sought to immigrate either to the United States, Canada, or other places in the world. They were called Eastern workers, and they were treated differently. The Ukrainians were treated differently from the Poles, who were treated differently from like Latvians and Estonians and others, and there were kind of gradations. The Ukrainians, I think, were kind of at the end of the line of getting good treatment, from what I understand. And after the war, the Soviet Union wanted all of these people back, and from what I understand, the reason is that they had seen the West and they'd seen it wasn't the hellish kind of place that was told about by Stalin and his folks. The UN had a relief and rehabilitation administration who ran the camps, and then there was a Ukrainian organization that found sponsors, and they found a sponsor for my parents down at the Delta and Pine Land Company in Scott, Mississippi. They were very grateful when they came down to Scott, because they were given housing, they could get food, everything was on credit, and they owed for it. But I remember when my father was saying, he earned 36 cents an hour because he was a mechanic, and my mom earned 26 cents an hour as a farm laborer. I lived in Mississippi for about a year and a half or so, and remember vaguely some of it. And it was a very unique experience. Everybody had their own little gardens apart from the company's cotton fields and such. So in a way, it was kind of a nice introduction to life in America.
The original company that your father worked for was a farming company called the Delta and Pine Land Company. Okay. And it operated as a farming company from about 1911 up to about 1978.
This is my grandfather and grandmother, Andrei Kushnir, and these were their kids. I think they both passed away. And this is my grandmother's. My grandmother had remarried, so he was my step-grandfather, and they both died.
Okay. Every place they went would have been segregated. Mm-hmm. So they would have been experiencing the whites-only water fountains. Mm-hmm. There were at doctors' offices. There were white waiting rooms and black waiting rooms. There were places, there were gas stations where they could get gas, but they wouldn't allow them to use the restroom. Mm-hmm. So that this was not that long before Emmett Till was murdered.
Right.
So, and we all know what he was murdered for, which was allegedly sassing a white woman. But that atmosphere of fear relating was very much present.
It's interesting, this particular one, Dixon, several of these people were important people around the company at the time. Mr. Fox was the original cotton breeder. But Mr. Dixon is really interesting because he worked for Corlaws. And he came over here, he was very interested in the investment.
That's the English firm.
That's correct. And he would stay for several months at a time and then go back home. And so he was here in 1917, and he booked his return passage to Liverpool on a ship called the Lusitania.
Oh my gosh.
And he survived the sinking. And,
wow.
But one of these units is named after him.
One evening, this man knocked on the door. He says, "Kushnir, you know, I've come to arrest you." And my grandfather took a pair of underwear for like a one-night thing and some food. And they took him to a jail, and he stayed there for a period of time. I've got it written down, I just can't remember. But then they had arrested several other people, and then they put him on a train and sent them out to Siberia.
Wow, did they survive?
Yeah, actually, his grandfather, my father's father, escaped. He was in a work camp, and said he had a toothache, I think, and he went to a dentist, but instead of going back to the work camp, he walked along the tracks. He basically walked a long distance, and he'd meet people, and it's interesting. People were very trusting then, and he'd meet somebody who'd tell him, "Okay, I can tell you which trains are going where, and which car to get onto, and you know how to beat the system." And he was able to get back to Kiev, and my grandmother, who had been sent to this prison in Mariupol, she ended up, I guess they were all women, and they had a prison escape. They crawled under this barbed wire, and she passed away in '86, but she had like scars on her back from crawling under the wire and such, and got out, and also ended up in Kiev, where they had family members who kind of hid them, and so they were kind of avoiding the secret police.
There was a hotel that sat right here, and that's a picture of the hotel. And then the other pictures are just from around. Yes. You asked about a cabin. That would have been a typical one.
That's you could see a corner of one of them in the picture that my father took of the Karpa family. So that's pretty cool. Can you catch that? Well, it doesn't really matter whether or not I found more information about my family, and in fact, I really didn't while here. But the reason it doesn't matter is the paintings I create have to stand on their own anyway. You know, maybe it's a way of letting go. I'll always have the paintings, and I'll always have the memory of being here. But the paintings will express what they have to express. When I paint, I really am trying to capture my emotional response to a scene. You know, William Faulkner had said that the past is never dead. It's not even the past. I know that I've been here before, and just trying to capture the feeling that I may have had, and the feeling that I have right now, that I have a connection to this place.